Nigeria keep clamoring that the problem that we have as a country is that we have bad leaders. What do we mean by bad leaders? We have leaders who don't genuinely care about the country, who don't genuinely care about the improvement in the welfare and security of lives of the citizens. What the only thing they care about is basically how to grab power, hold on to power, and use that power to their personal advantage and that of their family, and by extension, their associates. That's exactly what they do in Nigeria since 1999. Because when you ask yourself, is the life of an average Nigerian getting better or is it getting worse off? The answer remains the same. It's getting worse off. As you can see, 2027 is around the corner. What is happening today? People are porting from one party to the other. You see people, almost virtually all the first-time governors have moved from their party PDP to join the APC. Why are they doing that? So that they believe if they join the party that they are return ticket, and for them to win second tenure is guaranteed. That's basically the reason. There's nothing like it's for the interest of the state. There's nothing like that. It's for their selfish reason. That's why they do all of that. Hello, my people. Welcome to my channel. This is Andy Media TV. I was just, thinking through our country, Nigeria, and I was wondering, why are we where we are today? In terms of development, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of providing security, in terms of improving the welfare of the citizens, dealing with issue of poverty, and as well as education and health and all that. So I was just looking at every sector, trying to examine how Nigeria is doing in terms of most of these key indicators. And I was kind of x-raying what has been happening in the government since 1999, that democracy returned to the country. And a lot of things caught my attention. But one of the key issues that popped up in every of the administration is the issue of corruption. It's been something that is a cancer in the fabric of Nigeria. So I keep wondering, why do corruption persist despite the effort made by the President Olusegun Obasanjo administration? When he created Economic and Financial Crime Commission, they also established the ICPC, Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences. So they created all these agencies, two of them basically, with the hope of trying to curb corruption in the country. But the question remains, how far have they gone? What's the situation today? Is it getting better or is it getting worse? These are issues that we need to find out in this video. Again, when you look at why Nigeria in particular, I know what is going on in Nigeria is kind of, something that goes on within the, African, territory. But my focus is on Nigeria, basically. So when you look at these issues, Nigeria keep clamoring that the problem that we have as a country is that we have bad leaders. What do we mean by bad leaders? We have leaders who don't genuinely care about the country, who don't genuinely care about the improvement in the welfare and security of lives of the citizens. What the only thing they care about is basically how to grab power, hold on to power, and use that power to their personal advantage and that of their family, and by extension, their associates. That's exactly what they do in Nigeria since 1999. Because when you ask yourself, is the life of an average Nigerian getting better or is it getting worse off? The answer remains the same. It's getting worse off. Because when you look at the economic indices, look at inflation, look at unemployment, look at poverty rate, it continues to plummet on every administration that comes in. Yeah, some of the administration are a little bit better than the others in terms of, looking at the economic indices, like during Obasanjo era when he paid off the debt, and Jonathan administration built up the GDP and all that. But today, since 2015, when the All Progressive Congress, APC, came into governance of Nigeria, things has never remained the same. It began with the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. Things has never remained the same, especially this present administration. Yeah, many people will come up with the argument, oh, those administrations, they were like subsidizing a lot of things, and that's why the economy was like that, and this and that. Well, it's a genuine argument, but is that really the issue? I don't think it's the basic issues, because in most countries of the world, they subsidize a lot of stuff. Oh yes, I recall, if not the present administration in the United States, the people were encouraged to buy electric vehicles, and the government provided subsidy of about $7,500. If you buy it, you get the subsidy. So there are a lot of things government subsidize. They have food stamp in America, where they give out checks to people to, buy their food. But all these things are subsidies, But in our own climb, the problem with subsidies in Nigeria basically is because it is bedeviled with corruption. You recall the subsidy era of petroleum products, when NNPC comes up to tell Nigerians that they are consuming 60 million liters of fuel per day, and they are paying billions and trillions of naira to subsidize petroleum product. And nobody ever cared. How did they get the statistics? How do they arrive at that statistics? So these are inflated figures they are using to mop up money. We've seen cases where people do not even import a drop of fuel in the country, and they collect payment. They file fictitious documents to the Ministry of Finance, and they get paid. We recall when Dr. Okonjo-Iweala refused to pay subsidy payments because of fraudulent activities. What happened? They kidnapped her mother and threatened that if she doesn't pay, they're going to kill the mother. But they took the intervention of the security agencies to rescue her mother. So you can see, like she always said then, when you fight corruption, corruption fights back. However, the issue why Nigeria is not moving forward, basically, has a lot of dimensions. One is bad leaders, which I agree with them. We've not been privileged to have people that genuinely care about Nigeria, that genuinely, have that kind of thinking of Nigeria first, just like we have America first. We don't have people like that. They don't care. They don't care what happens in the country. They don't care who dies. They don't care who they kidnap. They don't care who doesn't have food on his table. They don't care. What they care is about grabbing power and using it to their advantage. As you can see, 2027 is around the corner. What is happening today? People are porting from one party to the other. You see people, almost virtually all the first-time governors have moved from their party PDP to join the APC. Almost Nigeria has 36 states, with the federal capital territory, that's 37. But out of the main 36 states, about 30 of the governors are already in APC. Out of those 30, about 6 or 7 of them, they come from PDP to APC to join the ruling party. So why are they doing that? So that they believe if they join the party that their return ticket and for them to win second tenure is guaranteed. That's basically their reason. There's nothing like it's for the interest of the state. There's nothing like that. It's for their selfish reason. That's why they do all of that. But to me, I don't think that the campaign to a ruling party is what's going to guarantee your success in an election, because it's the people that will determine. And this time, I believe Nigerians will stick their head, vote, and defend their vote to avoid rigging. So, having talked about bad leadership, another day we're going to deal extensively with the bad leadership. But today, I just want to focus majorly on the part of corruption, which is the second leg of the problem of Nigeria, why the country is not developing. So I'm going to kind of bring up some things that has happened within the politics since 1999 that democracy came on board. And then we'll see how those who, Nigerians entrusted power onto to use it to develop them and build them, how they are using that portfolio to be able to drain the country financially. We will see that. But before I dovetail into that, if you are new to my channel, kindly like and share this video, and also subscribe to my channel and put on your notification bell so that when my next new video drops, you'll be among those that will be notified. All right, let's look at these key issues. First, I'm going to start with the most recent before going back to other years of governance. The one that is already on the news, the Economic and Financial Crime Commission, the EFCC, recently, charged the former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, SAN, for money laundering. If you remember how this whole process, took place, according to EFCC investigation, about 212.8 billion naira worth of properties was traced to him. And the total number of properties that was tracked to this former Attorney General was about 41 properties, just for one man. He was Attorney General for 8 years under President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, and they served for that total 8 years. There are a lot of recoveries that came back from the Abacha loot. There is, resources that came back under Desi and the loot. However, she, at some point said that the loot does not belong to her. That the United States government repatriated to the country. So most of these loots are part of the questions EFCC has raised, for him to answer, because these monies were not traced into the treasury. So when you look at how just one man was able to move 212.8 billion naira out of the system to build factories, he built schools, he also built hotels, he bought houses both in Abuja, in Kano, and in Kebbi State. his home state, and he was preparing to contest for the governorship election of that state. So these are the kind of people we see in the leadership and governance position in Nigeria. People that don't care. His job as the #1 law officer is to ensure that Nigeria is not ripped off as a country, and to be the the legal representative of the government at all front. But this is what we saw at the end of his 8 years. He has amassed a lot of wealth, and that's quite unfortunate. All this money that was alleged to have been taken or laundered by him would have been invested in the sectors of the economy, education, health, and what have you. But unfortunately, this money disappeared. The next person I'm going to talk about is the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele. This man was the governor of Central Bank all through the Buhari's administration. He was the one that engineered the change of some Naira notes, the 1,200 and I think 500 Naira notes, prior to the 2023 general election. So at that time, when he was still CBN governor, he was also trying to contest for presidential election at that time. But I think at some point he has to withdraw because he has already even procured some buses branded in his name. However, when the Tinubu's administration took over in 2023, an investigation was conducted on what he has done in his tenure as the central bank governor. And it was discovered that about $4.5 billion is missing, is being traced to him. And also, it was alleged that about 753 duplexes that are being constructed in Lokogoma in Abuja was linked to him as well. So there's quite a whole lot of brouhaha going on around him at that time that they have to detain him, in the prison and all that. And I think he's still active, in the court process. So when you look at this whole thing, one man, 753 duplexes. Do you know what the cost of each of these duplexes will be? Multiply it by 753. Most of the buildings are still work in progress. Some of them have been roofed. Some of them are still, undergoing, construction. That's an estate. That's what he was building. So where did he get the money as a civil servant to, get into that kind of humongous project? Again, the dollars that was also being alleged that was tracked to him. Nobody knows how, that happened. But being a civil servant, what do you need all this kind of monies for? What do you need all this kind of, estate for? As one man, dipping hand in public treasury, a treasury that was entrusted in you to protect, to keep, and to manage. But this is what we see. There's many more. The next person on the line is the former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, whom the EFCC alleged, stole about over 80 billion naira, which he used to even pay school fees for his children, even in advance. And as you can see, the payment of the school fees, he paid for those who are already in school, and the one that is yet to start kindergarten 1. He has paid his school to the end of the process. So the same Yahaya Bello now is warming up to contest for Senate, for his constituency. So this is the same person is still in court. Yes, we know he's innocent until proven guilty. But when you look at what is going on, you understand that most of these people, they don't have shame. They don't care. That is the point. Then there's another one from the former Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, about 8 billion naira has been alleged that have been taken by him. Remember, he was the one that tried to deceive Nigerians in the name of his launching Nigerian Air, that he has to bring in Ethiopian airline that was covered as Nigerian Air. You remember. So, and they also procured I think 10 fire trucks at about 12 billion at that time. So like each one is costing like 1.2 billion. So there's quite a whole lot going on around him now, and I think EFCC is working on him, and this case I think is in court. So that's another one. All this is within the Buhari's administration. That's what I'm trying to pinpoint. And Buhari, don't forget, contested his election by telling Nigerians that he's coming to fight corruption. But the corruption that took place under his administration is something that you cannot behold. So let's get into the the next person. Recently, the National Assembly is probing the NNPC, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, which is now the Nigerian National Petroleum Limited. All right, they are probing their the audited report where about 210 trillion naira was missing, was not adding up within the confines of the report, and they kind of were asked to go back and provide evidence of what happened to the money. And don't forget, when President Tinubu's administration began in 2023, May 29, he said that subsidy is gone. And from that day, they cut off, subsidy payment. But this same NNPCL is still claiming that they were paying subsidy. They pay subsidy on crude oil. They pay subsidy on the refined product as well. Does it really make sense to you? No. Obviously, they are looking for, a corner where they can cover up the amount of money that has been stolen already. So that one is still by the corner, 210 trillion naira. So imagine if that 210 trillion is in Nigerian coffers today. Imagine what it can do across all sectors of the economy. But few people, just few individuals who have access to this organization, who are top leaders in this organization and who have access to government, were able to deal with this company and embezzle these resources. It is what it is. And that is the reason they continue to go hand in hand, begging for loans abroad, borrowing loans within the country by floating bonds and also looking for IMF and the rest of them. Whereas the resources God has given us as a country that is generating resources for us, just few individuals are mismanaging it. And many Nigerians are wallowing in poverty. And the 2027 election, they're already warming up for that. Whereas you can see the rot that is going on in the country. But the unfortunate thing is that the way the citizens are supposed to react when all these things comes out, they don't do so. That is just the point. So you can't just allow these guys to continue to perpetuate themselves in government and use the platform to steal the country dry when the owners of these resources are suffering. That is man inhumanity to man. It's an inhumane treatment to the whole of the Nigerian citizens. That is exactly what this whole thing is all about. Again, the former GMD, Group Managing Director of the NNPC or the NNPCL now as it is called, about 4 accounts belonging to him were frozen. I think it contains about 660 something million, naira. And this guy is being questioned, I think, for about 4 billion naira thereabout. So he's still under the radar of the EFCC. He was the former GMD. He served under the Buhari's administration. Even when Tinubu came on board, Tinubu fired his crew. The other guys that were working with him, he fired some of the directors and all that, but he left, Melekiari until, after, I don't know what really happened between them, that he now have to fire him at the end of the day. And then EFCC swooped in, and then there were kind of, issues that the EFCC are bringing up concerning alleged, squandering of government resources. So in his case, no certain sum was really mentioned. I think they called it a multi-billion naira, fraud case. So that's what it's all about for him as the former GMD NNPC. So all those monies, 210 trillion, it is under his watch that those monies were disappeared, grew wings and disappeared, which they are tagging as if they paid it for subsidy. Subsidy for who? The government is no more funding subsidy as of 2023, according to what the president, has said. So I do hope that the National Assembly should be able to do proper oversight, review those documents, ensure that they hold those people accountable. However, I'm not trusting the National Assembly, I must be true to you, because during the Buhari's administration, he printed over 23 trillion naira at that time as ways and means. And if you add up the interest and everything, it was hitting about 30 trillion at that time. This money were not approved. They went above the threshold stated by law in terms of printing for ways and means. They overshoot that threshold. But unfortunately, 2 weeks to him to complete his administration, he has to collaborate the National Assembly. And they ratify that expenditure. Remember, the way the law works, the executive cannot expend any money not appropriated by the legislature, the National Assembly. But in this case, they unilaterally printed those monies, expended them, and in turn, 2 weeks to the end of his administration was when he now went back to National Assembly to now get approval for money they have already spent. So they breached the law, and as I speak, nobody is held accountable. They only picked Emefiele, who is the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. So when you look at what is going on, you keep asking yourself, what kind of democracy are we practicing? And these are part of the reasons why the country is where it is today. So instead of the National Assembly to hold President Muhammadu Buhari accountable, they ratified the money he printed and expended before he notified them. That is wrong. The National Assembly does not have power to ratify. They only have power to make laws, to do oversight, and to appropriate. These are the 3 key functions of the National Assembly. There is no place they have right to ratify what the executive has done. So they were unable to hold him accountable. And this happened under the leadership of Lawal, all right, who was the Senate president at that time. And it was quite unfortunate. And now they have rolled over those monies as debt to Nigeria. So all of us are now paying the money most of them have stolen. That is how sad the situation, looks. So those of you who are coming out and be shouting APC, shouting PDP, shouting all kinds of party, that is not the issue. So 2027 should be a wake-up call for you guys to open your eyes and locate a candidate who is not greedy, who is not known for stealing or looting, and who has the empathy, the conscience, who has that capability to manage the affairs of Nigeria, and vote for him to be there. This is not issue about party now. It's not about party. And it's not about my brother or my religion person. That's not the issue. Otherwise, by 2027, Nigeria may not, survive what is coming. Because every day they keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. When will it end? The ones you have borrowed, what happened to it? It was filtered away. The moment you hear the government telling you that Abacha loot will be invested in infrastructure, just know that the money is gone. Except if the money is tied to specific projects so that they can be measurable, they can be monitored, and there should be key performance indicators. Then under this current administration, the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you remember the Edu Gate, right? Where there was about 3 billion naira scandal in terms of awarding, contract. So she was heading the social investment, program, at that time. It was said that EFCC recovered about 24 million naira at that time during the investigation. So up to today, we don't know the outcome of that investigation. Then you remember the former Accountant General of the Federation, OAGF, who was alleged to have stolen 109 billion naira during his tenure. And the EFCC picked him up and he was fired from his position. However, to date, he's not in prison. I think he did plead again and then he was off the hook. So now you see, just one man, 109 billion. So again, there's about $53 million that was returned by the US government, which was tagged Desi and Alice in the Madeke's loot. But at some point, she said that the money does not belong to her. The money belongs to one of the government associates. That's what she mentioned, in her reaction when those, funds were repatriated. She tried to clear her name. And I think she's still going to court in the UK concerning some of these issues. So these are people that have held positions of power. And then this is the outcome. You remember the Odua Gate, Stella Odua, who was the former Minister of Aviation, where I think over 2 billion was also, been linked to her at that time. So she has been going through all these things in the court. Since then till now, nobody had anything that was during Jonathan's administration. So you saw recently the former government officer that Dangote was speaking up and was alleging that he paid school fees, and the man has to give way. The president was able to push him out of the system and appointed new person to take over, the upstream and downstream, sector. So these are the things. How can a government official afford $5 million to pay for school fees for his children? So these are the issues we are talking about. They bastardized the school system and they put their children abroad. It is what it is. They don't care how the system functions. So you also remember when the former, first lady under President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, his wife, came up and was saying that even in the state house clinic, there's no syringe, there's no, medical supplies, whereas over 3 billion was approved in the budget for that year, for that same clinic. So you can imagine, where did the money go to? That's why you see the president and his families and all of them getting out of the country for medical checkup. Either they go to Dubai, the UK, or the US for medical checkup. The incumbent president now, he frequent to France. He also frequent to UK. Why can't they build a standard hospital in the country that can at least take care of them? They don't care. They can afford it with the state resources to go there, take care of themselves, whereas the citizens are dying of common malaria because there is no standard hospital that can be able to take care of them. So you can see, people can easily die. Just look at what happened the other day, during the festive period that, the renowned boxer, Anthony Joshua had an accident, that claimed 2 of his friends' lives. You saw what happened. There was no ambulance there, on point to be able to, take him or take whoever that survived and stuff like that. No. It was a federal road safety vehicle, and it was also the police vehicle that was following him as a convoy, that's the security team. They have to carry somebody who was stopped in the vehicle and put him in that car. No ambulance, no medical personnel, no. So when you look at all this thing that is happening, you keep understanding where our problems are coming from. So now in 2026, you can see the new tax system that they are proposing. The National Assembly passed the law, sent it to the executive for assent. They changed what the National Assembly passed, added their own, clauses in the law, which made the law null and void. So they will see the shocker of their life when they start to implement that law, and people take them to court because that document is null and void until the National Assembly revisit it, sort it out, and they resend a new, a new law, updated one, which they have removed all those clauses. The same law they passed is the same law they're supposed to send back for him to put his assent on them. So if they don't do that and they continue to insist to enforce that law, to start implementation January 4th, when their committee just finished their investigation and and came up with a report that truly the law was abridged by the executive. Anyway, we will see how it plays out. By the time people, companies, and individuals start taking them to court, and then maybe by then they will understand what it is to do things in the proper way. I don't know why they are in a haste. The citizens are not running away. They are there. Companies are there. Fine-tune the law, get it back to what National Assembly approved, and then give assent to it, gazette it, and then start your implementation. So you remember the Dasuki Gate, right? The arms day money, about $2.2 billion that was meant to procure arms at that time during Jonathan's administration. These monies were frittered away. I recall one of the ministers then said he spent, is it 2 billion naira from that money he received from Dasuki, who was the national security advisor at that time. He used it to pay for people to do prayers for Jonathan to win 2015 election. So it was just quite funny. They sent people to Mecca to go and pray. They sent Christians to Jerusalem to go and pray. Money meant for arms. So you can understand what we are talking about. Most of the money we are used for campaign. During President Olusegun Obasanjo's tenure, about $16 billion was alleged to have been spent in the power sector, and Nigeria had more darkness. So if you recall what happened then, they were busy commissioning power plants in the bush. So they were building power plants, but they were not building the gas pipeline that will power the turbine. So when they now do the project, there's no gas. So it's adding no value to the power grid, because the turbines need gas for them to be able to do the job of generating the electricity. So they were busy cutting red tape, just like President Tinubu did for the Coastal Highway project that of about 750 kilometers. They did 30 kilometers. He went to commission it. So a project of 750 kilometers, you did 30 out of 750, not even 1/4. You went to cut tape that the government is working. That is the issue that we have. So Nigeria spent $16 billion during Obasanjo's time in government as the president of Nigeria, 8 years. And Nigeria had more darkness. This is 2026, right? And Nigeria is still struggling to generate over 10,000 megawatts. They are still struggling. Since 1999, over 26 years of democracy, they are yet to cross 10 to 15 thousand megawatts. Is it a cost? How much have been invested? If you check Obasanjo's administration, check Jonathan's administration, check Buhari's administration, and check Tinubu's administration, how many billions that have been spent in that power sector? Where are we? Darkness. That's why they are grouping people, band A, band B, band C, band E. That is the problem. But in Abia State, they expended, I think, about $8 billion or thereabout to generate power that is covering about 9 local governments, 24-hour power supply. Why can't they do that kind of NIPP in clusters, starting with FCT, the federal capital, and build that kind of NIPP, the independent power plant, that can be able to generate that kind of power in clusters? Before you know it, everywhere will be light up. Abacha loot that came back, about $53 million. They said, we go to rural electrification project. Where are the communities that have the light? These are the points. These are the questions. They will come to one house, put one solar panel on the roof. That is the rural electrification they are talking about. So when you look at this scenario that we are in, you wonder, why don't these people care about this country? You can see what corruption can do in our country. So when you are driving through that bad road, you understand why you are seeing it. When people are dying of malaria, when they want to deliver a baby and the baby dies in the hospital, or the mother dies for minor complications, you understand why. So, and we have government. Every year they budget billions and trillions of naira, and it goes to nowhere. Few individuals see this whole money and disappear. So the EFCC at some point recovered about $43 million in Ikoyi house in Lagos. Remember that, where the money that was said to was linked to the Nigerian Intelligence Agency, NIA. They said the money was given to them by Jonathan's administration for covert operation. That's what they said. But that cost the DGC's job, and EFCC recovered the money. We saw millions of dollars, cash. This is real cash. We saw the money when EFCC recovered the money. So, and I think it's where, Ibrahim Magu, the EFCC chairman at that time, had problem with the AGF, Attorney General of the Federation at that time, for going to recover that money and to showcase the video live on TV, and stuff like that. So guys, there are many more, but this is just the few I was able to pick out to be able to squeeze it within this time, so that you understand why the country is where they are. And when you hear people just die for minor something, you understand the reason. So the people governing the country, they don't care. What they care about is seize power, use it for their personal gain. That's what it is. And protect their associates. So you can see a lot of loopholes. If you put these monies I've mentioned together, just for these few ones I just brought up, you see how many trillions we are talking about, and how far it would have gone to develop the country and different sectors of the economy. But few individuals decided to steal them and use it to build estates and travel to Dubai, launch them, siphon the monies to all these tax havens and buy properties abroad while other people suffer. They don't care. However, I don't know what you think concerning this whole issue of, bring up here. That is why, as 2027 is coming for the next election, you should begin to think, is it the kind of people you still want to, govern you guys? Why can't you try something else? Someone who is not as greedy as these people, someone who doesn't have the track record of looting, so that you can be able to at least ensure that the resources of the country is protected and used for the interest of the country. That is my take on this. I don't know what you think, but whatever you may think, please kindly put it at the comment section so that we'll continue to talk about it and see how we'll be able to make our country better. So guys, I'm going to let it slide over here, but before I leave, if you're new to my channel, kindly like and share this video, and also subscribe to my channel and put on your notification bell so that when my next video drop, you'll be among those that will be notified. Thank you for watching. I will see you in my next video. I'm signing out.